Hey friends, Dean here. Before we get you on to your episode, I want to take a moment to invite you to our next virtual online trivia night. Wednesday, May 13th at 8 p.m. Join us either on our Facebook group or on our YouTube page for 3 rounds of fun trivia, music questions, movie questions, general knowledge questions. It'll be a fun time and a chance to win some prizes and have just a good relaxing night of some trivia at home. You don't even have to go out for it. So don't forget, Wednesday, March 13th at 8 p.m. Join us on our Facebook group or YouTube for 3 rounds of fun virtual online trivia. We'll see you there. In this episode, we're asking you to close your eyes and get in a New York state of mind as we discuss the runaway hit album by Billy Joel, The Stranger. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff, and Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome to the 3324 podcast. I'm Dean Legiro. We drop new episodes weekly, so go ahead and like or follow us on your favorite podcast provider, or get us directly at 3324.buzzsprout.com and never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. And as always, I'm here with Eric Kuber. How are you, Eric?
I'm good, Dean. How are you?
Doing very well. We are discussing today on this episode a classic among classics.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Billy Joel, The Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
So let me do the stats. We'll do the nuts and bolts, and we'll jump in. Mm-hmm. So this came out in 1977, and this was produced by Phil Ramone, and this would be the first album that him and Billy Joel would work on together, and would be a long-term partnership. And Phil Ramone had previously most notably worked with Paul Simon and Simon and Garfunkel, I believe, but mainly Paul Simon. Mm-hmm. This album would hit number 2 on the charts. And unfortunately, it could not wrestle loose the grip that the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack had on the number 1 spot. So he came very close, but Saturday Night Fever soundtrack was an absolute monster. Mm-hmm. I can't blame him for not being able to wrestle loose from that, because that was just out of control.
Right.
There's 9 tracks on the album. 4 of them were released as singles. Mm-hmm. Just the Way You Are hit number 3. Moving Out hit number 17. One of my favorite stats, She's Always a Woman, also hit number 17. I for some reason I'm fascinated by multiple singles from an album that hit the same chart position, not number 1. Only the Good Die Young hit number 24. So those are 4 out of 9 tracks. Now, here's the amazing thing about this album. There's 3 other songs on this album that became classic rock radio hits. Mm-hmm. The Stranger, which is the title track, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, and Vienna. That makes 7 out of the 9 tracks are undeniably classic, either from radio or from album-oriented rock radio, a la classic rock radio stations. Mm-hmm. And also the wonderful thing about it is those 7 songs that are either chart hits or rock radio staples are the first 7 songs on the album. And then the last 2 songs are songs that either weren't released or weren't rock radio staples. So you're literally getting a masterclass in hits after hit after hit after hit, 7 tracks in a row out of 9.
But those last 2 tracks, I want to point out, are no slouches either.
Absolutely not.
A perfect way to end the album, because you have those two songs after all that string of hits, or the popular stuff, and it's like you're listening to those last 2 tracks, and it's like, oh, I haven't heard these in a while. So when the album closes out, it's a bona fide masterpiece.
Yeah, and those are great tracks.
Yeah.
by themselves also.
Yeah.
It's not like those are the ugly ducklings or he did something weird.
No, they're
with
no
those
fillers.
tracks.
They're not fillers. They're, and he would perform those songs live. In fact, I think he did them recently. As a matter of fact, I think I read that he had just done the last song in a recent show, which was like surprised the hell out of everybody. So they're not forgotten. So that yeah,
absolutely. It's just, this is just from front to back to front. This we're talking a classic among classics. This album,
it's perfect. It's a perfect album.
Certified diamond. That means 10 million copies sold. So that right there, the proof is in the pudding. And this was, and also he took home 2 Grammys for this. Just the Way You Are, Song of the Year and Record of the Year. So this really launched Billy Joel literally into the stratosphere, seemingly overnight. Although he had 4 albums before this. And it's weird. The thing about this is so strange is when I was looking back on his discography and those other albums, all those other albums have like those album-oriented rock hits on them, but these were not big chart albums. The album before this, Turnstiles, was number 122 on the charts. That is not a hit by any means, but it had the song New York State of Mind on it.
Yeah. I mean, there were some real gems back in the day. I mean, Captain Jack and Piano Man, of course. And I think what it was that he wasn't feeling he wanted the stuff to sound more live. He wasn't never happy with the way things were recorded because the live situation was so much stronger. At least that's what he thought before he met Phil Ramone. And so I think it was just finding the right personnel, the right producer to really get these songs and get it in the way he wanted them to sound. And he didn't like the more polished production, I guess. And that sounds kind of strange to me because those albums really don't sound all that polished, especially the early ones like Piano Man.
And it's funny because when you talk about that and about the sound that Billy Joel was trying to capture, in this case, the producer really did make a big difference because I went back and I just listened to Turnstiles, and that's got a lot of great stuff on it too. Say Goodbye to Hollywood. Sure. So many of these other the Angry Young Man is on that. These are certified album-oriented classic rock station, classic songs, but no one was buying these albums like that. But there is a difference in in the way his vocals sound on Turnstiles. It doesn't sound like it's pushed forward to the front. It almost sounds like he's singing in like a kitchen or something. Like there's something hollow, not about his voice, but about the way it was mic'd or the way it was recorded.
Right.
So when you hear The Stranger, there is an absolute marked difference in the sound. And there's a couple of things that are going on there. You talk about Phil Ramone, the producer. Just to go into a little bit of the backstory is Columbia Records that he was on was there. He was at a crossroads. They were thinking about dropping him if he did not have something big because his last hit, quote unquote, was the album Piano Man, which was like 2 or 3 albums before. And that hit like number 32. So it certainly wasn't gigantic. And they're talking about producers. And George Martin, producer for the Beatles, was like, I'll do it. And George Martin had not only done the stuff with the Beatles in the 70s, he had worked with the group America, and they had a string of hits. So he was popular just outside of his work with the Beatles too. He was also doing other groups and making hits for them. So Billy Joel is kind of like, I want to use my band, the touring band that I have. I want to get them on record. I like the energy, like you had said. I like the groove that we get into. And George Martin's like, nah, I think we should use session and studio musicians. Now, I don't know if that were you and you've got the opportunity to work with George Martin, the guy that produced the Beatles for all those years and really was the driver. And he's saying, we want to get studio musicians. And you're saying, I want to work with my band. What would you do? What would you do?
I'd probably go with George Martin. he was a bona fide Beatles fan, and George Martin, to work with him would have been a dream. But, going back, and he didn't like working with session musicians before. So I guess, it's a testament to Billy Joel that he knew what he wanted. So that took a lot of guts, took a lot of,
So he said no.
Yeah.
He said no, which could be if your record contract and your recording career is hanging in the balance with the decisions you make.
Right.
And you've got George Martin ready to work with you. Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, I want to use my live band. You're really rolling the dice. And I'm sure the record company was like, all right, this is probably going to be the last album with this guy because he's just not making good decisions. But it was one of those things in music history, a masterstroke. Because afterwards, after this album did everything it did, George Martin called Billy Joel and actually apologized and said, you were right and I was wrong. Okay, so that's not why Billy Joel did it. And I'm sure he probably didn't need to hear that. It was more of I need to do this.
Right.
This is the band is as much a kind of a part of me now, or he finally assembled that touring band.
Liberty DeVito on drums, bassist Doug Stagmeyer, and Richie Kanata on saxophone and organ. I guess there was a brotherhood there. There was an instant chemistry with these guys, and I guess he just didn't want to let them down at the time, and they just stuck together, and the results are clear.
Yeah,
so
and
to have George Martin apologize, that's something too,
to say you know what, you were right, which is after 2 Grammys and 10 million copies, I'm sure you're probably like but and one of the strange things is if you go look at the album or the CD or whatever it is, if you look on the back cover, it's Billy Joel and his band, and Phil Ramone is in the picture, the producer, and you never really see that type of a. Producers, unless you know who they are, they're nameless and faceless. It's just a name, and you're not really sure what they do. But on the back of the Stranger album, Phil Ramone is in the photo with everybody else as if he was a member of the band,
right?
Because he really was that important, and he really was able to really nail the sound that he was looking for, and because there is a difference between Turnstiles and the Stranger. So, so let's talk a little bit. And I was thinking about this, is New York, you have the California sound, right? The Eagles, Linda Ronstadt, Fleetwood Mac, Jackson Brown, the California sound. You've got like the Texas sound. You've got the Motown sound.
Yeah.
You've got, during grunge, Seattle.
Yeah.
What is the New York sound? There's a lot of bands that have come from New York, but and I'll just rattle off a couple, and you'll see that they really don't have anything to do with each other as far as style, right? The Ramones, the New York Dolls, Blondie, Steely Dan, Simon and Garfunkel, Talking Heads, Beastie Boys. Now, these are bands from New York that were formed in New York. Yeah. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they represent whatever the quote unquote New York sound is. I think that Billy Joel represents the New York sound much in the way that Springsteen and perhaps Bon Jovi represent the New Jersey sound.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
I don't think of Talking Heads when I think of a New York sound.
No.
If there's such a thing.
Because they were looking past the New York skyline, as it were. I mean, I think Billy Joel, I don't care. You couldn't have grown up in New York without having, no matter what you were listening to, whether you're a metalhead or whatever, to not have something by Billy Joel on your soundtrack of your life is, but I totally agree. The New York sound belongs to him. He's sort of the ambassador. And I think what it is too, though, don't forget, New York is sort of like a cultural hub. So a lot of bands are looking beyond that. They're looking at those horizons. They want to expand their horizons outward. Indeed, even Billy Joel would try that in his later years. He's starting to be like Paul Simon, with River of Dreams and the African thing, and, trying to, do other things too. So, but yeah, I mean, you're right. He might be the absolute mayor, as it were, of the New York sound. Just that.
It's hard to pin.
That more jazzier, there's something about that sort of that nightclub sound, that kind of, or just shifting to like a shuffle or something. But it speaks to the streets. It speaks to people that we grew up with. When he sings about people, they're regular people. We know these people that he's singing about. Right? So you take like scenes from an Italian restaurant. We know Brenda and Eddie. We know those people. You know what I'm saying? Like we grew up with those people.
And maybe you know what? There may be something to it because we're both from New York.
Yeah.
That maybe they played him a lot more on some of the classic rock and went a little deeper because he was from Long Island, and right, Long Island is, for those that don't know, is right on outside of New York City. So he was as local can get outside of Springsteen, as far as an artist from the 70s that was very prolific and putting stuff out. Yeah. So maybe we were spoiled, and maybe we have a different outlook on it, but I can't think of anybody more New York. And he's only, we'll get to it later, but he's done things recently in the past 4 or 5 years. He's done things in the past 4 or 5 years to only cement that reputation. And we'll get to that a little later on. So what's the deal with you and what's the deal with you and Billy Joel anyway?
The deal with me.
What's the deal with you and Billy Joel?
Billy Joel. Are you talking how I first got into him or just general? I mean, it was actually Glass Houses that I got into first. That was the album of, when I moved to Dobbs Ferry from Yonkers. That was 1980. So that was, so it was that trilogy of albums. They put like The Stranger, 52nd Street, and Glass Houses are my all-time favorites. So all 3 of those albums I think are great. But yeah, that was hanging out with, kids, on the stoop, listening to It's Still Rock and Roll to Me and Don't Ask Me Why. And, so I really, my cousin who lived upstairs, she was a big fan. So we would listen to him, together. He was the first. I have to credit Billy Joel as the first artist that I actually cared about lyrics, because he was talking about regular people. He was, telling stories about people that we know and people that we might meet, down the street, or, just relationships. And it was different from the stuff that I was kind of listening to, like progressive rock and all this weird stuff. And, so he's a very gifted songwriter in that sense. He's not Dylan, with these lyrics that you got to kind of figure out and you're trying to, put a face to, or is he the voice of a generation? Well, he's the voice of the everyman, I think.
Yeah, definitely the blue collar guy making a living. And you feel that he was that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel that he probably lived some of those characters,
absolutely,
situations, and a lot of the things on The Stranger, especially the love songs, are very much written about his wife. Mm-hmm. So the love songs are definitely based in what he was feeling and wanted to express towards his wife. And then some of the other brilliant stuff it's kind of like Slice of Life, mm-hmm. like. Moving Out is a slice of life song about somebody just trying to get ahead and just trying to, and just like kind of living mm-hmm. and just trying to make it. And so it is very much like, this is just a song about a regular guy. And it's just kind of like works across from the medical center, trading in his Chevy for a Cadillac, and just regular things that people can relate to. And not stuff like The Doors where it's very abstract, or stuff like Dylan where it's very political and he's trying to get a message across. Yeah. This is just very ordinary stuff, but the love songs are ordinary too, but they're very they're very passionate, and they're very, even some of it, people think like Just the Way You Are, schmaltzy, and by now, yeah, you hear it on oldies radio.
So
but
it was
there's
everybody's
there's a lot of
song.
emotion there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feeling, so, and again, for me, so yeah, Billy Joel was one of those artists that was just always around. Like if you're talking 1980, Billy Joel, Elton John, Paul McCartney, those were probably the three artists that were always just on the, just intertwining. Those three artists always probably had some type of a hit on the radio. I didn't, full disclosure, I didn't buy an actual Billy Joel album until 2 years ago.
Really?
And I bought The Stranger on vinyl.
Wow.
I had listened to the greatest hits. All the songs. You can't not know the songs. Yeah. And that's one of the things is you kind of take it for granted. It's like, yeah, I know all those songs. And when I got back into vinyl, I was like, you know what? I need to build a collection. I need to what would I want to have in my collection? So I started looking at two artists. One was Bob Seger. And I went back and got his key, three key albums.
Okay.
And then I started looking at Billy Joel, and I picked up The Stranger, and I looked at the back of it. And I'm like, how am I not walking out of the store with this right now? I said, out of the 9 songs, I know 7. Yeah. That's like, you can buy some greatest hits albums from an artist that you kind of like and not have 7 out of 9 that even though they might be greatest hits or they were on the radio at some point. So, I bought that one, and then I started from there, just started getting the other ones up till, An Innocent Man.
Yeah. To be fair, I didn't buy my first Billy Joel record until 83. It was An Innocent Man. I didn't even have Glass Houses either. We just listened to, my cousin had them all. So I listened to them all with her. But the only thing I actually owned at that point was the 45 of Moving Out. And I used to play that all the time, So, but yeah, you're right. All the songs, I didn't need to get those albums anyway because the songs were always on the radio.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
So he was there. He was always there anyway. So I didn't need to physically spend the money.
And he was very prolific too. Yeah. He was just once he hit his stride with the Stranger album. Like I said, that had 4 hits from it, so that was enough. And it was kind of like the match that lit the fuse, because then after that was 52nd Street, and that had 2 or 3, and he won some Grammys for that. And then Glass Houses and Nylon Curtain. It just really touched off a litany of hits for him. So yeah, you hear it all the time that you do. It's like, yeah, I don't need to get it because it was so I don't want to say overplayed, but yeah, it was probably overplayed, especially in the New York area because he's a hometown son. So we probably heard Billy Joel more, I would say, than someone out in California. For them, that might be the equivalent of Fleetwood Mac or the Eagles. Probably get played more out there than it would here. So we were probably just kind of soaking it in a little bit more. Yeah. So, you've got the workman-like stuff of Moving Out, right? And then you get a song like The Stranger, which is kind of, this was one of the classic rock hits that was always played. I knew this song, and I'm like, but it was never released as a single.
I always felt that The Stranger should have opened the album, though. Do you agree?
Well, yes, mainly because it closes out the album
with the whistling.
Right? Yeah, at the very end of Everybody Has a Dream, which is the very last song, you get a reprise of the whistling part from The Stranger. So it almost feels like, yeah, why isn't The Stranger first?
Yeah,
because it, usually when you do something like that, you're not calling back to the second or third song from an album. Usually when you do that, kind of close it out, it harkens back to the opening track.
It was always odd to me that you do that. When you listen to the entire album, that is, when you hear it by itself, it's, makes no difference. But it's a great song. It kind of, deals, it kind of deals with some, I don't know, psychological problems, perhaps, although Billy Joel says it wasn't particularly about that, but the lyrics absolutely talk about,
The stranger inside, everybody goes south every now and then.
Right. It's about us. It's about our personalities. It's, there was talk of like split personalities and all this schizophrenia and all this. I don't know about that. I think it's just normal. We all have different temperaments and things like that. Faces that we wear. Sometimes we put on a facade, or, that's what I get out of the song. So
yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a great one. It's a great one. Mm-hmm. And then of course, after that is Just the Way You Are, which was the monster hit. I mean, this song, you couldn't, in 77, you couldn't get away from this song.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. And yeah, if there was a song that was overplayed, it would probably be this one. And if there's any backlash against Billy Joel, it's probably because of this song, just because it was so much, so everywhere. And it's not an up-tempo song too. So ballads tend to get kind of take a few more hits than an up-tempo song.
He didn't want to put it on the album, apparently. No. And so Phil Ramone called in Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow into the studio to convince him to put the song on the album. And they were like, "You're crazy. It's a great song. What are you talking about?" And he's just like, "Okay, Linda Ronstadt says it's good. Then, she's a cutie."
Yeah. Well,
but to get that woman's perspective, you're talking about two very strong female voices back in the 70s who were, they were a force to be reckoned with back then. And to have them say, "Yeah, it's a great song," that must have been a shot in the arm for him.
Yeah, and I think in 1977, I think Linda Ronstadt would know a little bit more about what a hit is.
Yeah.
Than Billy Joel at his point in his career. I think if we pulled up Linda Ronstadt's chart action, I think she would be a little bit more of an authority on what would be a hit over Billy Joel, who was on the verge of losing his contract if this album didn't do what it was supposed to.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of this was like this was the Grammy winner too. This was the song that did it to him, and it's odd, you think about those decisions in the studio. I don't want to, I don't think this song has got what it takes, or we're thinking about dumping it, or replacing with something else, and it's like someone will just kind of change. Yeah, it's that same decision, like with George Martin. It's like, no, let's go with Phil Ramone, or let me use my band. It's all these little decisions.
But little personal note with this song too. Our good friend Andy, that was his wedding song, and his wife Courtney. So they got, that was their first dance song. So even, you're talking, this was 90s, and that they got married, and they love that song, so it's a testament to how well this album has gone through and how it lasted too. So, and they're younger than us, so,
Yeah, it's an evergreen. It's an evergreen song. It's one of those weddings, proms, party, slow dancing. It's one of those songs that are going to be one of those evergreen love songs. I
never thought of it as cheesy though. I always loved the song, because I don't know. I'm a sucker for a good sort of jazzy ballad anyway. I that's just my taste, but I never thought of the song as like schmaltzy or anything like that. Even he was kind of like about it, but I don't know. I think it's a great song. It always was.
And it's one of the.
I like singing it at karaoke. I regale people. I've done it a few times at karaoke, so I got some good response.
Well, you've got some skin in the game. Then that's why you got a dog in this hunt.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, because you were singing it. So
yeah, well,
so that's why you can, and that's why you connect with it. Then probably.
Well, right? Yeah, so, among other songs, but yeah.
My love of pizza and chicken parmesan makes me connect with scenes from an Italian restaurant.
Oh my God, this song!
Which is this song is just amazing. It's just this was a non-chart hit. This was a classic rock hit, and this is probably as popular as any of the chart hits. Scenes from an Italian restaurant, aka Brenda and Eddie, whatever you want to call it, but. A brilliant piece of production work of really stitching together three distinct songs. I mean, they are really three distinct parts that you don't even realize are flowing into one another, and it's just done so brilliantly.
Yeah.
The classic, one of the classic lines in rock music forever, bottle of white, bottle of red, perhaps a bottle of rosé instead. I mean, it just sets the mood right there. I mean, it's
New York.
Three simple phrases that set the mood.
Yep. That's New York. That is, there you go. It's, you could say this one song, but there on its own, it's a masterpiece of a song. It's the song that it's over 7 minutes long too, which, sort of, anchors the album in a way. It's, so you have 4 tracks on either side of it. It's the perfect centerpiece. I mean, it's the last song on side 1 of the vinyl, but if you were to listen to it on CD, it would be, in succession. It's the third. It's what is it? The 4th song on the album, song. But it feels like it's right set in the center, maybe because of its length, But you need that one. And that's what makes this album so perfect. The 9-song length of it, and you have a song this long that just. It just balances the whole thing out to me.
Yeah, basically, three songs, 3 separate songs, basically stitched together. Right, one is the first part, scenes from an Italian restaurant. Another song he was working on called "Things Are Okay" in Oyster Bay, which is in Long Island. You don't get much New York than that. And then the Ballad of Brenda and Eddie. Yeah. So those 3 songs are stitched together with some interludes. Some rocking piano work.
Yes.
Just really, I mean, it's just an amazing song. I mean, when he transitions from the beginning part and then that piano starts and things are okay with me these days. Got a good job, got a good office. This has nothing to do with the Brenda and Eddie stuff, but it fits. It sounds like it's the same person. Or the same experience. So these 3 individual songs just really meld together in a masterful way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
I want
amazing.
to point out that, you talked about that piano. I miss the piano. You don't really, in the later stuff, you don't hear Billy Joel play piano all that much because he decided to go more rock and there's more guitar and some
synth instead also.
Yeah, I miss that. And that's what makes, I love him at the piano. He's got to be at the piano, that's part of it for me anyway. So
this is just one of those, it's just an epic song. I don't mean epic in its scale or in its, like, it does so many crazy things. Epic in just what it attempts and the masterful way that the 3 songs are stitched together, and then it resolves itself at the end. Going back to revisiting the Italian restaurant.
What's it talking about? It's talking about regular people. Yeah. And to have this sort of like big song, like this big sort of almost show-stopping type of thing, and it crashes down, and it's about a marriage breaking up, and it's all regular everyday things he's talking about. He's not talking about climbing a mountain and and all this kind of crazy stuff,
Yeah, so and there's no like long extended guitar solos or instrumental pieces per se like that. Mm-hmm. This song just moves. It starts out kind of slow, but then it gets cooking. It gets cooking pretty fast, and it just takes you. It pulls you along into the story, and that's the thing about Billy Joel's lyrics is you got to listen to them because it's important. It's not throwaway lyrics to serve the melody of the song.
Yes.
His lyrics are part and parcel with what's going on between the piano and the production, and his lyrical storytelling is, you're right. It's just so matter of factly or so working man.
You want to know what so happens to these people. You're engaged. And again, that goes back to what I said about him, being such a strong lyricist in that sense, because you are that engaged, and you have to find out what happens to these people because you're so interested. So it's amazing. We're gushing, but if there's an album to gush over, it's this one. And it's I think it's probably one of the big live songs too. People go nuts with this one.
He said it was his favorite. He said this was his favorite song that he ever wrote.
Okay.
Is this one? He said this is his favorite one.
I could see that.
Yeah. So he definitely kind of knows it also and understands that, what the impact is. And then this goes into Vienna, which Vienna, if there's a minor classic rock hit, it's this one, right? I definitely heard this song. I definitely was familiar with it, mainly because of the chorus. But it's just another classic. It's just another classic Billy Joel vocal. If we're talking about, this is a weird statistic. I'm going to drop some weird trivia. Scenes from an Italian Restaurant is Billy Joel's favorite song. Vienna is his 5th favorite song that he wrote. How does he keep track of this? I mean, I could understand an artist saying this is my favorite, but then getting down to like what your 5th favorite is.
Right, you're rating all your stuff. How's that possible?
Does he go down to 10? How far down does the list go? I'd like to know.
Yeah, really.
Did he sit there and rate all of his songs? Like, and we didn't start the fire is
number 25? What's 36? I mean, he's got like hundreds of songs.
I mean, if he's can specifically mention that Vienna was his 5th favorite song. It made me think, well, how far down does this list go? How much cataloging of his back work did he do and numbering it? And does it change like our lists tend to change?
Right.
So Vienna is, like I said, is probably the minor classic rock song, but it absolutely tuneful. It's got a classic, kind of understated, especially after Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, an understated vocal. And then it leads, and that starts off side 2 of the album. And then you've got Only the Good Die Young, which is another classic. These are just classic slice of life songs about things that everybody can relate to. That's all there is to it.
The funny thing about Only the Good Die, it always, I love the song. Don't get me wrong.
It's got that nice shuffle. It's got that nice shuffle to it.
But
it's something different.
Do you feel? I mean, the beginning, it always gets me because I want it to be something else. The piano, that melodic piano in the beginning, I love the way the song opens, and then it turns into this shuffle with acoustic guitar, and I'm like, "Where's the piano? Where did it go?"
No, I love it. I love the shuffle, and I love that.
Yeah.
That kind of loping guitar sound where it's kind of. It's something that's totally different. So you're probably not ready for it because a lot of the other stuff has been piano or keyboard. Just the way yours is more like keyboard than piano. But all these other ones, especially with Vienna, you're getting into a certain mode, and then there's this shuffly song that comes on, and it's got like this kind of really catchy acoustic guitar, kind of chord progression.
And that was
you're not ready for it.
No, you're not. And it wasn't always like that though. He would perform this song. He actually wrote this song, I think might have been a couple of years earlier he used to do it live, and he would do it in a sort of a slow reggae tempo. And he would actually sing in a sort of a reggae in a Jamaican voice, like
Mistake.
Yeah. And Liberty DeVito, when they were recording the song, and he wanted to record the song like that. And Liberty DeVito literally, I think I read this, that he threw his drumsticks at him and said, "You're nuts." It was pretty much him and Phil Ramone that came up with this shuffling beat. And, and it really took the song at a totally different level. And I think I actually heard a performance, and it wasn't an old one. It was a recent one. I think he went back to that reggae thing. I don't know why he was so obsessed to do the song that way, but
you know what? This is his. He has the opportunity. It's like, well, he got overruled in the studio, and it's like,
sure,
well, no, I can throw it out there every so often and just do it the way I like.
Right.
And then, following that up is another absolute classic. Again, probably everyone kind of slams it because it's another slow one. She's Always a Woman.
Yeah,
everybody knows it.
I love the piano on this one.
But just great, meaningful, like soulful vocal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are love songs, and he's singing them, as such, and with that, his heart on his sleeve type thing. And this is kind of a weird lyric though, because it is very kind of contradictory. Carelessly cut you and laugh while you're bleeding. It's kind of like a, it's kind of like a yin and yang type of thing where no matter what she does, She's Always a Woman to me. Like, I'll always love her no matter what. It's kind of boiling it down to that is I'll just, no matter what she does, I'm always going to love her.
You think this song is problematic to a
not
certain
really
demographic, or no?
No. Why?
I think I did read that there was some people that it ruffled a few feathers. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know who. They didn't, I didn't say, they didn't give specifics, but it's just, but yeah, I could see, I think the song.
I know only the Good Die Young had its share of controversy because it's kind of like, premarital sex and about a Catholic girl, and that actually kind of helped it sell some more copies, because once there's controversy involved, people want to hear what the song is, and that's the best thing you can do. No such thing as bad press. But no, I never heard anything about She's Always a Woman. This is kind of just always rumors, just one of those songs.
Those rumors out there.
There are.
Yeah,
those rumors.
Yep.
You know how those rumors can be.
Yep.
And then we get to the last two songs, which are Get It Right the First Time, which again is no slouch. Nope. It could ride with the big boys on this album. It is absolutely, when I heard it, when I put it on, I'm like, well, I don't know the last two songs, but it didn't make a difference because it wasn't like, oh, I'm done listening to this record because I've run out of stuff that I know. Get It Right the First Time is up tempo. It's right in there. It keeps everything moving. Especially after She's Always a Woman, you're getting another up tempo song. So it just kind of really keeps the flow going, and he doesn't let up. He really doesn't let the pressure up on this album. To not to be corny, pressure. Get it?
I got it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, forget it.
But that's the thing. That's what I was saying before. Like, it's nice to know that there are two songs that aren't, all over the radio. That you actually have two tracks on this record, and they're still great. And it like, again, it closes the album out so perfectly. So now you have this complete sort of piece of work here that is just, a bona fide masterpiece.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then the last one is Everybody Has a Dream, which is kind of I don't know if it's gospel-esque,
it's gospel-y
tinged perhaps.
Yep.
It's got that kind of feel to it. It's definitely an album closing song, right? It kind of closes everything out. Everybody Has a Dream, and the song kind of ends, and then that whistling part from The Stranger, which was actually never supposed to be whistled. It was Billy Joel had whistled what he wanted, whatever instrument they were going to figure out to play that, and they're like, no, just leave the whistling in.
Yeah, he did it in one take. It was like perfect.
Yeah, and then so they close it out with the whistling again from The Stranger, which again, harkens back to the curious decision to not have that be the first track on the album. But you know what? I don't know. I kind of dig hearing Moving Out as the first one, though. It just kind of it's Moving Out, such a quirky song the way it starts, and his vocal with that gack, like
once you drop that needle,
a lot of those.
The opening notes of that song. Once you drop that needle, that's what you want to hear.
Yeah, I think it starts it off in a good way, and I mean, Billy Joel was swinging for the fences on this because he, like I said, he had to. If he didn't, the career was in jeopardy, and you would think, what, Billy Joel, like, really? Yeah. I mean, Columbia was like, you're not putting up any hits for us. Radio, classic rock radio hits are one thing, but those don't sell albums. Singles and chart hits are what sell albums. So, New York State of Mind and all Captain Jack are great, and we all know them, but that wasn't doing it for him back then. And then he delivers in spades. I mean, he's like, okay, you want to see it? Here it is, like 7 out of 9. How is that? I mean, you hit 3 out of 9. You're in the Hall of Fame in baseball. He hit 7 out of 9. It's absolutely amazing.
The formula would just run right into 52nd Street. It just picks up where The Stranger left off. It's again
picked up a couple of more Grammys for 52nd Street.
Yeah. Yep.
I think he got like two more Grammys for that one, for 52nd Street. 2 or 3 hits out of that. And it just started a cycle of I think it also gave Billy Joel like the confidence that he needed, because if you put on 52nd Street and Big Shot is the first song, you can hear his voice, like you can hear some confidence and some bite. You know, there's some bite in that song that opens the album. And I think that The Stranger was kind of gave him the footing that he needed. And he took it and ran with it. He absolutely took it and ran with it, because you got 52nd Street, Nylon Curtain, Glass Houses, Nylon Curtain, Innocent Man, and then a couple other ones, and then the last thing he would do is, as far as traditional stuff, is The Bridge. No, River of Dreams. Sorry, River of Dreams was the last one, and then
The Bridge was the last album he did with Phil Ramone.
Yeah, and then River of Dreams was the last one he put out.
Then he had that one, Stormfront.
Stormfront was
that was We Didn't Start the Fire, and I didn't like that at all. I hate that
then
song.
Then he did a few years after that, he did a symphony. And then kind of stopped recording.
It's a shame.
Stopped doing kind of a lot of stuff. Like he would tour. He would kind of tour with Elton John. They did the two pianos thing, right, with the two pianos on tour. But he kind of I never understood that. Like
I didn't either.
Like the River of Dreams.
93 River of Dreams. That was the last pop rock album he put out.
I mean, and it was okay.
Crazy.
Like that song River of Dreams was good. There was nothing wrong with it. And I mean, he had some problems. I got into a couple of fender benders.
Well, and he was it his manager? Like took off most of his money too. At one point, he was almost broke. So he had some issues.
You got to go back out there, right? You got to start recording again. So the thing that and it sounds like it might be a confidence thing, because then what he started a residency at Madison Square Garden, and he said, "I'll play at least one concert every month." At Madison Square Garden, as long as people buy tickets. Like if people buy I don't know, so like self-doubting. Like I'll do the concert one per month if people buy tickets.
Yeah.
Okay. He shattered records. He did 73 consecutive monthly shows until March of 2020. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, all that stuff stopped. But previous to that, 73 consecutive monthly shows. That's incredible. And where they were selling, and I tried to get, I looked at tickets. I'm like, you couldn't even get tickets.
You can't. It's like a Broadway show.
Yeah, because they would announce like the next 3 months worth of dates. Like, I remember like, May, June, July, and August. And it's one show. It's like one show in each one of those months. So everybody it became an exclusive ticket. It became like, like Hamilton,
right?
But only showing it once a month. So people embraced Billy Joel. I mean, they want him, they love what he has to offer. And again, and I think, like I said in the beginning, this is what I think cemented him as New York's favorite son.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You do a residency for 73 months. That's just crazy, and it wouldn't have stopped. It absolutely would not have stopped had things not happened. I mean, that you're talking, that's over 6 years.
Yeah,
that's over 6 years of a monthly show in New York selling out, and some months he did 2 shows if he was able to, if he was didn't have any other touring commitments. So that's just. All I can say is I came to The Stranger late in my life, and I'm sorry that I did. But again, like we had said, it's one of those things that you really take it for granted. Yeah, like I said, the Elton Johns and the Paul McCartneys. If you don't get into them,
Yeah, and the Led Zeppelins and bands,
Yeah, all those hit me, Bee Gees or whoever.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
They're always on the radio so consistently, so you don't feel like you're missing anything, because the next back then. Billy Joel and those guys were so prolific that it almost seemed like the hits came naturally, like at will. He would just put out another album, and they'd be like three songs on the charts, and then a couple of songs you'd hear on classic radio. So it was always there. Yeah, you didn't need to really go seek it out unless you became an Uber fan.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I did come to it late, but oh my God, now I listen to like The Stranger, like, it was no problem to listen to this 4 times or more to really kind of absorb it. Like it wasn't a chore. Like, oh, I got to listen to The Stranger. I'm like, I'm driving somewhere. I'm going to put The Stranger on. And I'm just going to listen to it again, and I'm going to absorb it again. And you know what? Basically, what I'm doing is I'm catching up. I'm trying to catch up for I'm trying to catch up for all the years that I didn't have it. So I'm like listening to it a lot. There is nothing
wrong with that
to make up for it.
There is just, it's like
I'm paying my penance.
It's like what I said in an earlier podcast, man. Sometimes some things are worth waiting for. And maybe it's because it was so popular and so overplayed. It kind of, it's just, you didn't think it was bad. It was great. It's
easy to dismiss.
Exactly. There were other things that we, got into. Sure.
And that's what happened and I think that's what happened to Billy Joel is unfortunately, it became very easy to dismiss him for some reason. I don't know why, and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, Billy Joel. Yeah. Oh, you listen to Billy Joel? It's like, well, yeah, why don't you listen to Billy Joel? sit down and listen to The Stranger and just,
well, I don't think you can say that about
minutes out of your life.
I don't think you can say that about New Yorkers. I honestly think that if you're from New York, you're a Billy. I don't care. You like
just by
Billy
default.
Joel. Just by default, you like Billy Joel.
I think actually it says it on the New York driver's license. I think it says Billy Joel for life. I think once you get a New York State driver's license, you've got no choice.
When I moved to Florida in '95, and I met this good friend of mine down there, his mom, and she was born and raised in Florida, and she was a huge Billy Joel fan. So we connected just on that. We talked about his lyrics, and we talked about, and he was young. He's younger than me, and again, it's that he's moving south. He's out there. His music is being heard. So that blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe. Is she from New York? That's the first question I asked him.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
So yeah,
because he's so connected.
Yeah.
with New York and Manhattan and. Yeah. Taxis going down the street at night and people walking in Times Square and his lyrics, something, I guess if you look at New York State of Mind, actually will just evoke all of that. I mean, I think he pretty much did it in one song, and then everything he did afterwards kind of just cemented the legend.
Right.
I think is like you need that one song that's just so evocative of New York. Yep. Everything else can kind of mention it in passing, or Queens or Brooklyn or whatever, and you're in. And then you come back to New York and you do a residency for New York and say, I'll play for as long as you'll have me, right? Which is unheard. I've never heard of a residency. Usually residency is group comes in, they book five shows at the Beacon or wherever, right? That's what a residency is usually you go here, you go to an iconic venue in New York, you do a series of shows. Then you go to an iconic venue in Chicago and you do a series of shows, right? And then you go wherever else. I'm going to come back to Madison Square Garden, right? I mean, who does a residency at Madison? Usually residencies are at smaller things, or it's 3 nights.
John would go to Vegas to do that. Or Elvis
that's where you see that kind of stuff.
That's where the people.
But that's where you expect it.
Right, exactly.
Right? You expect it in Vegas, and it's a show.
Yeah.
And they're doing it every night. He's saying, I'm going to go and tour. I'm going to do whatever. But if you guys will make the date and buy the tickets, I'll come back once a month to MSG, which is absolutely amazing. And to do it for 6 years, I think that just kind of shows the love. And I know people that have gone more than once. It is also a lot of people taking advantage. And that's why I wanted to get in on it. It's like, he still sounds great, and that's one of the keys too.
Yeah,
and he probably benefited from not being very prolific with touring and all that other stuff, because he still has his voice and can still deliver. So you're not going to see like a sympathy tour. He sounds really good. Yeah, so I'm hoping that after the everything settles and we start having concerts again, that he'll resume that residency and keep the record going. Because it's nothing short of amazing to play the same venue for 6 years. Like, just think about that. And something as gigantic as Madison Square Garden. So wrapping up, I think we've said it all. I mean,
I think so.
This was the jumping off point for him. If you look at his earlier discography, there are those classic radio hits that but and it's so mind boggling that those weren't big. But the change of producer did everything. And that one decision he made of, I need to do this my way or the highway, because that's really what it was going to be. Yeah. And he delivered an album like The Stranger, which it's bona fide. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say about it. I again, when I turned it over, when I was seriously looking to buy an album, I was like, how do I not have this already? I should have just went outside and just punched myself in the face, because I couldn't believe that I had never had it after all this time.
Yeah, I told my wife, told Kelly, I was like, we're doing The Stranger. And she goes, what's on that album? I'm like, are you kidding? but only because he's got so many hits, you know what I mean? So she might have had like a greatest hits, and there were many of those. I mean, how many compilations that came out, and live albums and all this stuff. And those were the things that were making him the money, I guess, in that really low point in his life. But you got to have the album. You can't just rely on those. You gotta get this. You got to 52nd Street. I mean, there's just.
I think the Stranger. I think The Stranger is probably the only, outside of the Beatles, because once you listen to the Beatles, every song is a hit. But I think as a release proper, for the amount of chart hits it had and what it's done on radio, this is the closest thing to you'll have to a greatest hits album that is not a greatest hits release. Right. This was a single release that has so much on it that you're not going to go wrong. So I would say, if you're thinking about dipping your toe in the water, and if we've intrigued you at all to consider checking out Billy Joel and saying, maybe did I miss something perhaps? Mm-hmm. Check out The Stranger. Absolutely. I mean, you're not going to go, you're going to be like, wow, I know all these songs, and hopefully some of it will be like revisiting an old friend, because you don't hear it as much anymore. So it was nice to hear, like, Moving Out and Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, because you don't really hear them anymore.
It has been,
but you know them. If you were around back then, you heard all these songs. Mm-hmm. So that's going to do it for The Stranger. Yeah, we have advocated on its behalf glowingly and gushingly. So there's not much more we could say except for listen to that and let that start your journey. Yeah. And if you want to go backwards, the good thing is it's kind of not really in the middle, but you can go backwards from there. Or you can take the train forward and get on Hitsville, mm-hmm. because you'll just, if you go forward, it'll just be boom, 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 boom. Like I said, up until River of Dreams. I mean, he literally didn't stop. So we appreciate your support for the 3324 podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, or download directly and listen to our episodes directly at 3324.buzzsprout.com. We have new episodes weekly. For Eric, my name is Dean Legiro. And we will see you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.